Hi, family and friends. Hope everybody's doing well today. Sandy here from my recipe box, and today we are going to do a family traditional recipe. We're going to do stuffed artichokes. Now, this is the first video that I'm doing where I do not have a recipe card, and I have many recipes in my bag of tricks that don't have recipe cards necessarily, because we've been doing them for so long and you really are doing the recipe by feel based on a lot of factors. And so we'll go through that with this stuffed artichoke recipe today. It comes from my mom's side of the family, from the Venturo side. I've been making them as long as I can remember, and before me, my mom and my grandma made them this way as well. So let's start with the ingredients that we're going to need. Of course, we're going to need artichokes and some nuances about the artichokes. These are really big artichokes, and they're actually globe artichokes, which are not really the most ideal artichoke for stuffing, and I'll explain why. So there's a nice round, tight globe artichoke, as opposed to the conical shape of this one. The round ones are really, really tight. They have shorter leaves, and you really have to pull at them to get them to be stuffed. However, they're a great artichoke in the fact that they're so big and meaty. So I like to stuff them, but I prefer this conical shape if I can get them. I've prepped 3. We're going to do 4 stuffed artichokes today. But this one I left on to I left to show you. Of course, artichokes have the pincher at the end of each leaf that you have to cut off, and they do have a stem. These large artichokes have really edible stems. So the first thing you want to do is cut off the stem so that your artichoke sits flat, right? And if you really want to, you can kind of cut off the top, and then you can see in the middle, right, the light color there. Almost like a celery, you can cut off the hard outer edge and expose the tender middle, and then cook these when you actually go to cook the stuffed artichokes themselves, and you can eat these. If you don't want to go through the trouble, just throw the stems away, but I have some acidulated water. It's just lemon and some water, and I have the 4 stems in here waiting to get cooked. So if you don't put them in water with some lemon, they will get brown and they won't look that good. They'll still be edible. Some people do put the actual artichokes themselves after they're clean. They will put them in a little lemon water as well. I don't find that I need to do that because they really don't turn on me as I'm preparing the recipe. So I really don't do that part, but if you want to, you can. So I've got the stem cut off, and I've got now most of the leaves are trimmed to take that sharp edge off. So you just have to go around the artichoke, and every leaf that has one of those, you just have to cut that top of that leaf off. And then as you get to the top of the artichoke itself, you can just lay it on its side, and I would say a good 3/4 of an inch or so down, maybe even an inch, depending on how big your artichoke is. I just use a serrated knife and cut through all the leaves at the top. That's going to expose the inner leaves and basically that choke. So at this point, what I do is I run this under water, under nice cold water, and I start to pull at the artichoke and try to open that choke up and expose the inside of it, and also loosen the leaves. And you can hear this, listen, right? That's what you should hear if you got your artichoke nice and loose. And that's so you can get your fingers in there and get your stuffing down in. The more conical shaped artichokes, that's easier. With one that's a globe artichoke, you can see the choke in here, right? This one's okay. It's still making that noise, but man, it's a little harder to get your fingers into each one of these leaves. But we're gonna do it today. So that's the artichokes themselves. This one I will rinse and open up a little later. Let me get rid of this mess here, and we will move on to the stuffing. So here I have, get yourself a really big bowl. And in this bowl, I have basic white bread, right? You can use whatever kind of white bread that you like. Pepperidge Farm is good. Arnold is good. This is actually Trader Joe's white bread. The white bread you want to just break with your thumb and forefinger off into little pieces like this. It's ripped. I don't cut the bread with a knife. Don't ask me why. I just don't. I rip it like this and I let it fall into the bowl, and I do that for as much bread as I need. How much bread do you need? Now, that's going to depend on the size of your artichokes. Again, these are huge. Some of these, you know, this could be double the size of maybe not. Maybe a third bigger than a normal size artichoke you might get in the store. For a regular size artichoke, maybe 2 pieces of bread. For these larger ones, 3. And depending on the brand of white bread that you get, you might do, you know, less or more bread depending on how much stuffing you want in the artichoke. So Trader Joe's, this bread is a little thick. The slices are a little thick. If you get Pepperidge Farm, their pieces themselves are smaller and they're not as thick. So good guide is, you know, start with 2, 3 if they're really big like this, which is I did slices, and I got 4 artichokes. So do the math, right? So now you've got all of this nice torn bread in your bowl, right? And that's going to be the basis of your stuffing. So my recipe, or my family's recipe, actually uses white bread. Don't use stale bread. Don't use a baguette. That will make a tougher stuffing for you. You want a nice, fresh white bread. Can you use whole wheat? Yes, you can. It'll give the stuffing a different flavor. I don't necessarily like it. I'm not a big eater of white bread either, but in stuffed artichokes in this recipe, that's what my family uses. From there now, we have to flavor up that bread. So we're going to use a few things today and every day. Granulated garlic, granulated onion. You could use onion powder or garlic powder. I like the texture of the granulated better than the powder, but if that's what you have, use it for sure. Pepper, salt, some dried parsley, and some Parmesan or cheese, macaroni cheese, Romano cheese, whatever cheese you have that's grated. Can you use fresh parsley? Yes, you can. I don't like to in this recipe because I want the parsley and the bread to kind of merge together and absorb some of the moisture that the artichoke throws off. So if you use too much fresh parsley, the consistency of the stuffing might not come out exactly the same as what I do. But by all means, if you want to try that, this is why there's no recipe card. It's another good example, because there are variables. So let's get started. I've got 4 big artichokes in here. I'm gonna start out with 3 tablespoons each of the onion and the garlic. Now, why? With this, what I do is I add the ingredients in, I mix everything into the bread, and then I kind of smell the mixture and make sure that what I'm getting out of this bowl is kind of what I want. And I can tell if I don't have enough of the onion and the garlic. Now, I just put the onion, and I only put 2 tablespoons, and I'm gonna stop there. Was trying to think in my head how to tell you guys, you know, how to deal with this, and since I don't have any clear measurements, I was using this tablespoon. But no recipe card recipes. You know, we feel as we go, and I'm feeling like 2 of each is fine enough. And then I'm gonna get about a teaspoon of pepper, regular ground pepper, whatever ground pepper you have. We'll start with that. You don't want to make these too peppery. I've done that. I've had too much pepper in here, so let's start with that. And again, you can smell it. A little bit of salt. I'm just gonna drizzle some salt here. I like to use kosher salt in here. Put a few sprinkles. Don't go too crazy. So you're gonna put cheese in here, and the cheese is also salty. So let's say 3 little whizzes around with your fingers. And then the dried parsley. So let's also do two nice tablespoons of the parsley. And let's see where we go with that. Now the cheese in here, I have a cup. And how I kind of did that was, I usually just use a big heaping tablespoon, and I figure if I could put 3 tablespoons per artichoke, the cheese gives it adhesion, you know, and you like the taste of cheese in the stuffing. So I did that, and I came up with about a cup of cheese. So let's drizzle that in and see where we go. I'm gonna put about half a cup of cheese in here. I wanted to have enough so that if I want to use more, I have it right here. So that's about a half a cup. Just sprinkle that in. We'll reserve this half a cup and see if we want to add now any more of these ingredients. So I just sprinkled everything on top of the bread. Now I'm just going to use my hands and mix this all together. Make sure that you get a really good mix going. What you will find when you go to Stuffed Artichokes is that a lot of the herbs and the cheese and stuff might go to the bottom. So when you're doing your stuffing, you know, keep stirring it and then go to that bottom and get some of that stuff and pick it up and throw it inside the artichoke with the bread, just to make sure you got all the flavor. So now I've done this, and like I said before, I can sort of smell with my nose that I'm not getting enough of the ingredients up from this bowl that I want to make sure that this is really flavored well. So I may have been correct in my 3 tablespoons, and I'm gonna go for it here. And 1 more garlic, 1 more onion. I'm not gonna add any more salt because I think I added enough salt. I may add a little bit more pepper. I'm just going to use my fingers and drizzle some in because I'm not getting any of that pepper in my nose. And I'll mix that in. And then looking at it, I can tell if I have enough parsley. So I just want the parsley to be noticeable in the stuffing. And looking at that, I think the parsley is looking pretty good. So let's stick at the 2 tablespoons of parsley. So I will put these ingredients in the ingredients list in the description of the video so that you have this, and this will be your starting point. I think let's add a little bit more cheese. Let's add like another 1/4 cup. I'll say 3/4 cup of the Parmesan cheese. And what I had in here was 3 pieces of white bread times 4 artichokes, that would be 12, and I took 1 out. So I've got 11 little pieces of white bread in here, all cut into or ripped into small pieces. So these pieces are about, I'd say about 1/2 inch or so in size. This is smelling pretty good right now. So you can see the parsley's in there, and the cheese is all nice and distributed in there. And that's the stuffing. So now we're just gonna move on to take that and put it in the artichokes. And I'm gonna use this one right here because I pull it open really nice so you can see it. It's nice and squeaky, it's clean, and it's ready for stuffing. And all I do is take my fingers, I don't know if I can get a little closer to you to see, and start with the middle. Just grab from the inside, start with the middle and fill up that inside choke and just start pushing that stuffing into the middle of the artichoke. And then what I do is, you see you've got the leaves, so I just take some stuffing. I kind of use my middle finger, push the leaf open, and then let the stuffing fall into the cavity of each of these leaves. And I start at the outside, and I work my way around and in and push, you know, it's bread. So, and using that middle finger to open it up, and then just letting that stuffing fall from my hand into the leaf is the process. And you just keep going around, you keep opening the leaves, and you can stuff this artichoke as full as you want with this stuffing. So, very simple. You can see just from the few minutes how much stuffing I've got in this artichoke already. And I kind of eyeball it, you know. I don't want to overstuff one and then end up with no stuffing for, you know, when I get to that last artichoke. I usually do about 4 artichokes. When they have them in the store and they're good, I buy them and I make these. You know, it's not, also with artichokes too, gotta watch the price. I mean, I don't want to pay $5 for an artichoke. That's ridiculous. And don't you guys do it either, family and friends. That's just too much money. So these were, I think, were $2.49 a piece. That's a really good price. You know, same thing with asparagus. You know, I just have these mental thresholds in my head about, you know, what I'll pay for certain things in the store. And artichokes, $3.99, you know, per artichoke is about as much as I want to go, unless they look so fantastic I can't stand it or I'm really in the mood. So I'm going to finish stuffing these artichokes, and I will come back to you when I've got all of them stuffed, and we'll talk about how to cook them. So see you in a minute. All right, I got all 4 artichokes stuffed. You can see them here in all their glory. And I feel really confident that the instructions that I gave you are pretty dead on, because I'm here with an absolutely empty bowl of bread. So the 3 pieces of bread per artichoke seems to have worked out really good for these really large size artichokes. I was able to get everything in there. I didn't waste a drop. So now these bad boys are nice and stuffed. You can see that I've stuffed, you know, pretty much all the leaves, the outer leaves, as well as the center really, really well. These are gonna be really hearty artichokes when they're done. And I think that probably 1 big artichoke like this between 2 people is a great appetizer. That's how we eat them. Maybe have them as an appetizer when you're making a nice Italian meal, that would work. Otherwise, whatever you want to do. So to cook them, what I do is I steam them. So you'll need, obviously for these, a really big pot and a steamer. Now these steamers, sometimes they have a, you know, like a piece of metal in the middle so that you can get them in and out. Try to find ones, if you don't have them, that don't have that, because that just gets in the way of the artichokes in the pot. I happen to have 2 of them. Mine are really old, as you can tell. You know, they're even kind of missing pieces, but they work just as good. And fill the water in the bottom of the pot till it comes up to just to the bottom of the steamer. We're gonna put these in the pot, cover them up, and we're gonna steam them for about an hour. The bigger the artichoke, the longer they steam, right? So there is no hard and fast science to how long it takes one of these artichokes to cook. If they're smaller, they're obviously gonna steam faster. and then the larger ones will. So we're gonna have to do them for a period of time and then go in with, I use a set of tongs, and I go in and I'll grab a leaf and try to pull it out. If it comes out easily, and I can then scrape the meat off the artichoke leaf easily from an inside leaf, test an inside leaf, and then also test an outside leaf. If they're both nice and tender and they can come out of that whole artichoke easily, you know your artichokes are done. If they're not, you may have to add a little bit more water in the bottom of the pan. Make sure that you don't steam yourself out of having any water in there. So make sure that it's still steaming. If you have to add a little more water, do that as well. One thing I do after I get them in the pan, so I'm going to try this. Try to get 2 of these into this one big pot here. You may have to sort of force them in. Make sure your stuffing too is nice and tight in each leaf. Push it down. It's bread. It should smush in there pretty easily. So there I go with my 2 artichokes in that pot. What I do is I drizzle them all with some olive oil on the top of the artichoke just at the last minute to give the some moisture to the stuffing. So I really got to push these 2 in here. These are really big artichokes, but I don't have any wider pans than this. And like I say, most times artichokes aren't this big, but so we're making do. I also have here the stems, the 4 stems. So I'm going to put 2 in this pan and 2 in that pan so that they can steam. And then we're gonna drizzle them. This is regular light olive oil. If you want the oil to have a little bit more flavor, you can use a darker, an extra virgin. I just like to drizzle them with a light olive oil because I don't want the olive oil to be pervasive. Just want it to moisten up the top of that artichoke. And we'll do these 2. Nice and easy. All around. Try to get all the stuffing that's sort of on the top. I also will tell you, these smell really good. The stuffing, you can smell all the elements. You can smell the onion, the garlic, and the cheese. And they're just really fragrant. So that's how you know you've got your mixture, your stuffing mixture, really well prepared, and it's going to taste really good when it's done. And the moisture from the steaming and the moisture from the artichokes themselves are going to make the stuffing become nice and moist and cohesive, so that when you take a piece, a leaf of their artichoke, the stuffing will adhere to that leaf and come off with it, and you can take a nice bite of stuffing and scrape the artichoke along with it. So we're just going to cover these guys up. We're going to get them on the burner and starting to steam, and we're going to let them go for at least an hour. Probably these are going to have to go more, and then I'll show you what they look like when they're done. So thanks for being with me up to this point. Stick around to see what the finished product looks like. All right, our artichokes have been steaming away and they are done. So you can see the steam is still coming off of them. I just opened the lids and I just get 2 spoons and pull them out. Hopefully this goes without incident. There's one. There's the other one. And our stem, that looks really good. And we lost one, so this may be the one that we try. So you can see that the stuffing as I said it would be. It's nice and adhered to the leaf. So if you were to pull this leaf out and away from the artichoke, let's pull this one. Comes out nice and easy, and the stuffing adheres. So you just take a fork, grab your stuffing. That's really good. And then scrape the leaf. Well, perfect. So with that, you let these cool down completely. I'll just keep them on these serving trays until they really get room temperature. And then what I do is I will put them on each one on a napkin. Just place the artichoke on the napkin and then wrap it in saran wrap and put it in the fridge. And when you're ready to eat it, you can just put it back in a steam bath like this, warm it up for about 5 minutes, let it steam for about 5 minutes and serve it. Of course, you can eat them right now. As soon as they come out of the pot, you can serve them hot. So I hope that everybody had a really great time learning how to stuff artichokes today. I hope you enjoy the stuffing. I would say, you know, your first or second try, you may want to adjust the seasonings. You may want to, you know, add your flair to this no recipe card recipe from my recipe box to yours. Until next time, take care, everybody.